All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Go ahead and get started here in just a moment. You should be muted upon entry, but I do ask that you remain muted throughout the majority of the program here. You are absolutely welcome to turn your cameras on or turn your cameras on throughout the turn your cameras off or on rather throughout the program. So welcome everyone. I'll get started here with a quick little introduction and then I will turn it over to our wonderful floral and event decor designer Ami Wilber to get started today. So my name is Claire Fuller. I'm the public programs manager here at Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens. So thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday afternoon. So delighted that we can gather virtually today for our floral design workshop on sustainable floristry. For those of you that are in the DC area, in July here in DC, we're hoping that you're able to come visit us in person and explore the beautiful gardens. We also have our special exhibition on view called Glass, Art, Beauty, and Design. We are also pleased to be presenting some wonderful summer evening performances in the gardens. So dance performances, musical performances. We actually have one on Koyaba dance tonight and tomorrow night, which is just lovely. So you can find more information about all of that on our website at hillwoodmuseum.org. And I'll go ahead and drop those links in the chat later on in this program. As an additional aside here, our next floral design workshop is on Friday, August 11th, and it's focused on, again, local flowers inspired by our lush cutting garden. I will also drop that link in the chat for you all as well. So some quick notes about our class today. Our wonderful floral and event decor designer, Ami Wilber, is going to be building a floral arrangement on camera for you all step by step, and she will stop for questions along the way. So the demo will take about 45 minutes today. And so via the chat feature at the bottom of your screens here, you're welcome to submit any questions that you have throughout the program. And just as they cross your mind, you're welcome to put them in the chat. We'll go ahead and make sure there's time throughout the program to be able to respond to those questions. I will do my best to pronounce everyone's names based on your Zoom usernames. And of course, after the demo, I invite you all to stay for a show and tell. We'll feature everyone who's interested in showing off their designs today. So you're welcome to turn on your cameras for that, or again, throughout the program, whatever you'd like. So great, now it is my pleasure to go ahead and turn it over to Ami to start today's class.
Great, thank you, Claire. Thank you so much for all of that information as well. And welcome everyone, happy July. It's at least a little bit of a reprieve today from the weather in DC. It's been very hot and humid, but it's not so bad. So it's a good day. If you haven't gotten materials, then maybe after the workshop, you can go out and harvest your own if you have a garden, or go to your local flower stand and see what you can find. So today's subject is all about sustainability in floristry. And this is something that I find to be very important for us at Hillwood, and then also for the greater public as well. I think that when we think about how we can create these beautiful arrangements that you see every week, a lot of times I don't know if everyone is necessarily aware that the majority of our flowers this time of the year are all coming from our cutting garden. And if they're not coming from our cutting garden, then they are coming from local farms in the area. And the reason for that is that we're trying to really do as much as we can at Hillwood to be as sustainable as we can. As you know, florals come from all over the world, and the shipping of flowers from South America up to here, they usually go from South America over to Holland and then back out into the world. So it's a really large carbon footprint that a lot of these flowers are taking. So that way, if you can and you have the ability to be able to source your blooms locally, it really just helps with the environment and also being able to support your local community as well. So the other thing And for those of you who have taken the workshop before, you know this already, but I always like to just kind of go on and talk about the wonders of chicken wire. So we don't use any floral foam at Hillwood. And the reason for that is because floral foam is essentially just styrofoam. So it clogs up our dumps and all of the waste that goes into it. And it really is just something that doesn't break down and is not good for landfills in our environment. So with this chicken wire, you can reuse this, and the kind that I have, you can kind of see it up close here. It's galvanized, so it really doesn't rust. I usually can use these over and over again. The only time that I really have to stop using them is when they start to break down and the holes become even larger than they are now. And then what you can do is just dump it into your metal recycling, and it is a lot better for our environment. The other thing that I have as sort of a focus today is a recycled glass container. So my thinking in terms of how to be sustainable with containers is to really not go out necessarily and buy new things, but to see what you can find in your own home that you can use, or perhaps at a local thrift store or at a flea market, that sort of thing. So that, again, it's just one small step, but if we're all sort of in this together, it will start to make, I think, a big difference overall. So those are sort of my little sustainable things I wanted to mention about today's workshop. And also just to show you that you can be sustainable, you can be environmentally friendly, and you can still create a beautiful arrangement that we're going to do today. So like I said, we're going to use chicken wire. I just like to typically ball it up a little bit. I like to smush in the ends. And then I'm going to just squishy her down into the container. And as you can see, because this is sort of this green glass recycled container, the green chicken wire, I think, really kind of blends in, and you don't really see it that much. I know sometimes people are asking about, oh, what do you do to cover up the chicken wire? And I typically don't do anything, because I think that with the green stems in the glass, it really starts to hide itself and you don't really notice it that much. I'm not going to put any tape on the top of this like I typically do, because you can see that the container narrows in so that this chicken wire is pretty secure in there. So I don't need to worry about that for today. So the next thing that I'm going to do, which is always the most important, is just fill the entire container with water. This is just regular old tap water. I don't have anything in the solution, but if you do have those little packets that you kind of get with your flowers, you can put those in. A lot of times that will help prolong the life of the flowers. I find that it's really 50-50 whether I use it or whether I don't use it. We don't use any of it at Hillwood for any of our arrangements, because we don't want to have anything that could potentially stain in the mansion. So as you can see, I've filled my container almost all the way up to the top. The other thing you can do, which is really nice about the chicken wire, is you can go in and empty out your water every other day, refill it with fresh water. And again, that's just going to help prolong your blooms in the long run. So before we get started, oh, the other thing I always like to talk about, you can't see it, let me just angle this down so you can see it right here. I have my arrangement on a Lazy Susan, because that makes it a lot easier to manipulate your arrangement without having to physically pick it up all the time. So I always like to just sort of tout the wonders of the Lazy Susan. Okay, so before we get started, does anyone have any questions? Are we good so far with this? And we'll go ahead with our greening. I'm going to take that as a yes. So for today, like I said, we were sort of focusing on what's in bloom right now, things that you can get locally, and also a couple of ideas for how to incorporate native plants into your arrangement. So the native plant that we have for today is echinacea, or coneflower, which is this fun gal that we have right here. And sometimes with these also, once the petals start to go, the other thing that I'll do is I'll pluck off the petals. I'm not going to do it on this one. Let's see. This one.
Amy, I just wanted to interrupt with a quick question here. We have someone who asked that where can we get a Lazy Susan that is durable enough to handle this sort of project?
So I have a wooden one. I will say that because the wood gets wet, it's warped a little bit, but I got mine off of Amazon. But you can always just go to, a lot of times their kitchen stores will have them, or even like Home Goods or like Marshalls, or one of those places as well. I would personally say the best kind would be like a heavy plastic kind, just because again the wood ones will warp if you get a lot of water on it. I just happen to like the wood ones because they're, it's not plastic, so it's a little bit not using plastic. But again, I will say that it does warp a little bit if you get too much water on it. I also have one that's a bamboo one, which is, a nice recycled material as well. All right, so if you see your echinacea and you're like, yeah, I don't really like what's going on with the petals. A lot of times what I like to do is I like to just pluck off the petals. And then I have this fun kind of like buttony looking piece of flower that's left. And I actually find this to be really interesting and fun because it still has a lovely texture and it's this kind of brownish red color. So you can always do that with your echinacea as well. You can do that with your sunflowers as well. So if you notice that your petals start to fall off of your sunflowers, a lot of times I'll go in and I'll just start to pluck off the sunflower petals, and then I'll have these beautiful, just sort of brown heads with the greenery around it, which I also think is kind of fun. So again, these are all flowers that are in season right now that you would be able to find at any flower farm. These came from a local flower farm as well. So we have with us today, what do we have today? We have we have zinnias. I'm totally blanking on the name of this, but it will come to me in just a second. Jared, starts with an A. All right, well, that'll come to me in just a moment. We'll figure this out. I have celosia. This is the plume variety of celosia. And then I have some mountain mint, which is fun, which is this because it also smells really good. Ageratum. Ageratum is our purpley one. Thank you, Jared. And then also some sunflowers. So that's what we're going to be working with today. And then there's also some other kind of fun little novelty greens that we have as well. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to green my container. We're going to make this a 360, so it's an all-sided container. And I'm going to start off by greening first. And what this does is it helps to create a base, because you'll notice that the holes of the chicken wire are kind of big, so it starts to fill up that area to make it easier to put your blooms in. And then also it gives me an idea of, the size that I want my arrangement to be and sort of the width as well. The general rule of thumb is that you always want to go only about 1.5 times the height of your container. So for that, it just helps with the balance to make sure that your container is stable. Of course, there are always rules that you can, don't do that. Or you can do something that's closer in, more cropped for a certain design look. But again, mostly we're talking about the stability of the arrangement. So that's why it's only 1.5 times the height of the arrangement. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my mountain mint. I want my stems to be nice and clean going into the water. So I'm going to take off any of the loose leaves at the bottom. a good way to kind of figure out how tall and how much you want to cut off of your stem is you can hold it. I'm just going to bring this down for a second. Hold it to the bottom so you can actually measure off, how much you want to cut off for whatever the height is. I can pretty much eyeball this at this point, so I don't need to do that. But if you're kind of hesitant, always better to err on the long side than the short side. I'm going to take everything and I'm going to clip it at a nice sharp 45-degree angle. That way I have a lot more surface area for my stem to absorb the water. I'm never going to put anything in sort of up and down. I always like to kind of put things at a slight angle. I want my stems to also be touching the bottom of my container. I'm going to make this relatively symmetrical, but we'll see what happens. Nothing ever I do turns out completely symmetrical, but that's fine. So again, I'm just going in, I'm greening up a little bit with my mountain mint. And I want this to be at different layers as well. So I don't like how this is almost the same height as the other one. So I'm going to take it down just a little bit. So you can see that we have different layers of that. I'm just going to put one more stem in. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually green with my, is it ageratum? Ageratum. Having a difficult time with that one today. So I'm going to go in and green with this. I'm going to do a little side bar here for a second. So what I've done, I was going to originally just leave all of the green on the stems, but you can notice that it's starting to turn brown a little bit. So I started to take off all of the leaves so I don't have any of the brown leaves on there, just because I don't think that it looks good at this point. So you'll notice that the rest of mine have been sort of stripped down of any brown leaves, and it's just sort of mostly bare stem at this point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as my greenery as well. So I'm going to come back in with my arrangement, and I'm going to start filling in with this to take up, again, space in the container so that it'll be easier to then put other blooms in, and also to start filling up so that when you're looking down, you don't see, excuse me, any holes or gaps. And I like to do this sometimes with blooms or sometimes just with greens. And it really does kind of help. I'm doing them at different layers and different depths as well. So I might start putting some up that are going to be a little bit higher, so that, again, I have different levels. I like the way that this one is naturally curving. So I'm going to use that because I think it's kind of fun up higher.
Amy, I have another quick question for you.
Yeah.
Are you putting this at the same height or about the same height as the mint?
So it's a little bit different. You can kind of see from this angle that this is actually coming in a little bit deeper than the mountain mint. The mountain mint is kind of airy, so I want to kind of keep that airy feel to it, and that's why I'm bringing these in a little bit tighter in, except for some of them, like this one I have up at the top because I like the curvature of it, which I think is kind of fun. But otherwise, I am taking these and I am putting them in deeper into the container than the mountain mint. And I'm going to use the whole bunch. So I'm just going to go in with all of these that I have. And I do try and have it so that it's dimensional on all sides, so that it's not just kind of like a flat front and back. So I do like to have things kind of coming out, which you'll start to see here with these. Then after I feel like I have just about all of them in, I'm just going to kind of reassess, see what's happening a little bit. I have this big kind of bald spot here, which I know I'm going to leave open because I want to fill that with one of my larger blooms. So I have a couple of extra adranum left over. I'm going to just put these off to the side for now because I might want to use those afterwards if I see any spots that might have like a gap or something like that. So for right now, this is all that I'm going to do for the greening of my container. All right, if there aren't any questions, I'm going to go on to my next flower, which is going to be my sunflower. And as you can see, she's going to take up a lot of room. So I want to make sure that I'm using some of my bigger blooms first. That way I don't crush my smaller blooms later on in the process. But again, I left this kind of area right here that doesn't seem to have anything. It wasn't intentional, but now when I'm kind of surveying my arrangement, I know that I can then fill this in with some of my larger items like my sunflowers. I like to a lot of times think about the rule of odd numbers so that I can start to triangulate off of these blooms. And what I mean by that is if you use 3, 5, 7, and you can create this triangle. So let's say I have one here. The next one I'm going to do, I'm going to have up here. So now I've got 1, 2. I'm going to make a triangle out of this. And the last one is going to come down here. And that's going to be 3. So as you can see, it's 1, 2, 3. And then I can turn my arrangement and I can look and see. Fix this one a little bit. Sometimes they don't like to cooperate. There we go. So then I can turn my arrangement and think, okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, and then I would then use this here, 1, 2, and then I would put my third one here. And again, I've made another triangle. Or not cooperating. All right. Get it there. All right. So again, so then you can see I have another triangle, 1, 2, 3. So then I would turn it around to the other side, and then I can take these 1, 2, and then I put my last one here for 3. And again, what I'm trying to do with this is have it so they're all sort of spaced out I might have to adjust slightly. But then you have these areas, these little triangle areas that you can then go in and start filling in your other flowers. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my zinnias. And it's a whole color explosion of zinnias. So I'm going to go, but I'm going to think about this again in terms of making these sort of triangular patterns. I know that I have this sort of big opening up here at the top. So I think I want to go in with a flower there first. I'm going to go in with my first zinnia to fill in this top area up there. And I'm not going to worry about, you know, are the colors matching? Are they not matching for my zinnias? I'm just going to go in and start filling in the holes of the triangle that the sunflowers have made. And I'm going to put them in tighter and then also out further to create some depth. And I'm going to fill in here. And again, so I don't know if you can see this or not, but I have these triangles that I'm then filling in with the zinnias. So I'm gonna, turn it here. I'm gonna fill in these triangle spaces with my zinnias. The one thing that's nice about the glass container is you can actually look down and see if your stems are in water, which is always very important. And again, I'm just going in, kind of filling in my little triangle spaces that I did with my sunflowers. So I'm going to take this off of my book for a second so I can bring this down a little bit lower so I can see what's happening from this angle here. So I want to make sure that the top part in here is not bald, which it is right now. So I'm going to go in with some more of my zinnias to kind of fill in this top part here. And again, I don't want my zinnias to all be at the same depth, so I'm going to have them come in and out a little bit. Oops. It's a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to put this back up onto the book so you guys can kind of see what's happening with this gal. And again, you kind of want to just look around, keep like looking, see if you see bald spots, that kind of thing. I'm going to put in my last zinnia. I don't like what's happening in the back here. This, I don't really like what's happening here. So I'm going to fix this by moving this one gal up just a little bit. That's the beauty of the chicken wire as well, is that you can, monkey around with the position of your blooms, and it's still having structural integrity, unlike floral foam. Okay, so I just fixed that up a little bit. Feel like there's one more bald spot right in here. I'm just going to go in with my last zinnia there. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my celosia, and I'm going to really start to fill in my bald spots. Like you can see right in through here, it's really kind of sparse through there. So I'm going to go in with my celosia to really start to fill in some of these areas here. I'm going to use up all of the celosia that I have. And again, I'm looking for these like big bald spots, like right in there. I don't know if you can see that or not. And I'm going to take my celosia and I'm going to kind of go in a little bit lower in some areas so that I can start to fill in some of these gaps that I have. I'm also going to take my ageratum and I'm going to start to fill in a couple of these spots as well. There we go. Don't want any bald spots. Again, just keep rotating, looking around, seeing where things need to be filled in. All right, I'm going to just put in a couple more. And then I'm going to go in. Difficult now. All right, so see where we are. It's a little crazy looking, but sometimes the gardens outside look a little crazy. So it's just, channeling that. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to go in with my coneflower or my echinacea. Unless there are any questions. I think we're good so far. All right, so like I said, I have this naked one that I really kind of like. But some of my other ones I am going to keep as is with the petals on. I am going to take off these leaves though, because I don't want those to brown too quickly. So I'll have a naked stem with that. These, what I want to do, I want these to kind of come out a little bit from the arrangement. And what I mean by that is I'm going to place it so that if you're looking at it from the side, it's not on the same level as the other ones. So that it's not here, but it's out here just a little bit. And this is going to give your arrangement a little bit of depth. So again, you can see from here, it's just out slightly. And I like this little non-petaled one. I'm going to put this more up at the top here. And if some of the leaves look a little bit squishy, you can just kind of bump them up a little bit. So I don't, it's a little bit tall, but you can see this one's coming out just a little bit from the top. So it's giving it just a little bit of height. I don't like what's happening with this orange zinnia, so I'm just going to replace this here. That. I'm going to have this one come out from here. Don't like that there. This one over here instead. Let's put another one over here. Okay, so I still have some flowers left over, but I want to go in next with this little leafy thing that I have here, which I don't know what the name of it is. Do you know this then? But we're calling it green leafy foliage. And I like it. And I'm just going to use this kind of as an accent. So I want one to be kind of up high. Maybe Ligustrum. And I have this one come down a little bit lower and out. So it's like that. And then I'm going to have one more. I'm going to do it in threes, coming out this side here. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little grass. I'm going to take off the leaves of the grass, so it's just the plume that's left. And again, I want these to be up a little bit higher and out from the arrangement as sort of my wispy gesture. So they're going to be, as you can see, up a little bit higher from the arrangement. And again, the greenery part of it, I'm just pulling all of that off. I don't want that. I really just want to focus on this. And then have this kind of coming out. You really want to think of this as like an arrangement that looks like you just plucked it from your garden. I'm just going to do 3 of these as well. Now I'm going to just have a little look-see. All right, this last one's not decorating. At my arrangement and see where I might need to fill in with some more of something if I do. So I'm just going to kind of give this a little whirl, and I want to fill in this area here. So I'll go back in with a little bit more of my mountain mint. And again, I like to always sort of like look down below at my arrangement as well, so I can kind of see what's happening from the lower perspective of it. But again, I wanted this to be a little bit lower so that you can see it's filling in kind of that bald area there. Like this area right here looks like it's a little bald to me as well. But with that, I'm going to go in with a little solution to fill in that gap. Like that. All right. Let's see. Let's see what else. Maybe I will do 2 more of these little grasses. Give it a little something fun for over here. Right there. About right here. And then I'll do 1 more right here. Then I'm just going to kind of have a look at my arrangement. See what I see. She looks pretty good. So then I'm going to do this. Hold on 1 second. And do some. Yeah, kind of. Okay. So then you have your arrangement. I'm going to put it up behind dark surface so it's a little easier to see. This side. Yeah, so I think that this side, I'm going to call it front, even though it's an all-sided arrangement. And then you can kind of, have a look and see if there are any other spots that, you have extra flowers, if you want to fill in along the way as well. But that is our arrangement. What questions do you have?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amy. We have one more question about the vase. So is there a different approach with the flowers if you're using a different shaped vase, one shaped like a fishbowl with no flare up at the top, for instance?
So if you're using, depending on your vase, if you are using one that is not kind of necking in tighter, then what you want to think about is really just like greening up a little bit more heavily. So that way you're, again, giving this like crisscrossing of stems here so that you can create a layer for your stems to go into. because this one was sort of coming in a little bit, you didn't need to green up quite as much at the beginning. But then I had to go in and green up towards the end because there were some bald spots. But if you have something that's the same, that doesn't have the little bottleneck that comes in, just green a little bit more heavily at the beginning. Yes.
Great, thank you. An additional question here. What are your thoughts on loose stripe or gooseneck in an arrangement? They are invasive, but they are dancers and they move and sway.
I'm sorry, which ones?
Loose stripe / gooseneck.
Oh, the gooseneck. Yes. Again, I think that if it's in your garden and that's what you have available, then by all means use it. I don't know if I would necessarily plant it specifically to put into my garden just for floral arrangements, but I think if you do have it, then you should definitely use it. I think that one of the things about trying to be sustainable, also trying to be native, is that you're not gonna clear cut an entire thing of existing plants or existing flowers that you already have. I think that it's like a gradual thing that, you know, the ideal is to ultimately have, you know, mostly natives in your garden. But, you know, again, you don't want to necessarily just remove everything that you have. And then also you want to use what you have at your disposal as well, because I think that's also part of the whole point of being able to buy local, or to be able to buy or to go out into your garden and be able to harvest your own flowers, that kind of thing. So if it's there and you like it, then 100% use it.
Great, thank you so much, Amy. It looks like we don't have any additional questions at this time. Because we're at the end of our demo session here, is there anyone who followed along at home who would like to show off their arrangements today? All right, well, I see, oh, Michelle, it looks like you turned your camera on. Would you like to show your arrangement?
Hi, sure. Hold on here. Let me. Oh, there we are.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
So here, my daughter and I did it.
That looks beautiful.
There.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I really like how you have, again, like the stuff that's coming up sort of out from the arrangement, a little bit of wispy gesture with that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks. You too.
Great. Aisha, I see that you have your lovely arrangement here. Would you like to share today?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand. I did not figure that out. But yeah, so this is
Oh,
mine.
gorgeous.
I think what I would like to do differently next time is I really liked how yours and the other woman who just showed hers had a lot of like variation in height, and it looked kind of loose and airy. I think mine's very like dense and packed and everything. So that's what I'd go for next time.
Definitely.
And
I think
fun.
Yeah, I definitely think that the sort of loose, airy look seems like it's easy, but it's actually very hard to accomplish that without having done it several times, because the sort of key to that is really being able to do things in different heights. And you need sort of the, you know, the feel of, all right, I know that I can cut this one shorter. I know I should leave this one longer, that sort of thing. And that will help you just if you think about the different levels and depths of the flowers. But I think it looks gorgeous though.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Great. Is there anyone else who would like to share today? All right, wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us this afternoon to create these arrangements. As I mentioned before, I'll go ahead and drop the link to next month's floral design workshop in the chat, so you can find that there. It's called From the Garden to Your Base. Again, it's based on our own cutting garden here at Hillwood. I'll also go ahead and add the link to our general programming page so you can see what's coming up, all of our wonderful summer programs, and of course, exciting things coming up in the fall. So thank you again all for joining us. Thank you, Amy, for another lovely arrangement and class.
Claire,
Claire, so much.
can I just show Amy? Because
Sure,
Amy did such
absolutely.
lovely comments, and sorry, I was just finishing up. So that,
That looks gorgeous.
little bit like that, maybe, to give
Yeah.
it a
Yeah, and
top-down look. It's
that looks wonderful.
it's wonderful that you're doing this, Amy, with the focus on sustainability. I think it's really, really great. And so I did want to say one thing, if I could. There is a DC government website, which is called Reuse, and I'm happy to send it into Hillwood. And you can actually go in and get, stuff that people don't want anymore. And you could get vases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'll send it to the Hillwood general email, if that's okay.
Wonderful. Yeah, definitely.
And one other question, are you doing a class in August?
Yes, we're doing, and it's going to be Hillwood's Cutting Garden inspired. So we'll be using dahlias and a lot of the different things that are in bloom for August. Yeah, so it'll be a lot of fun.
I love dahlias. All right, thank you so much.
Thank
Always
you.
lovely.
Wonderful arrangement.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Again, I've gone ahead a link to next August's program in the chat if you wanted to go visit that website page, as well as for our general upcoming programs. So just, is there anyone else who has a quick question or would like to share today? Okay, great. Well, wonderful. Thank you all again for joining us this afternoon. Hope to see you all at Hillwood again soon, and I hope you all have a beautiful weekend.
Great. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.